Have you ever loved someone so much that you felt like you were losing yourself? This is the story of Maya and Eli, and how their love, beautiful and broken, taught them a lesson they'd never forget. Maya was a woman made of heart. She was warm, expressive, and loved with every fiber of her being. For her, love was about closeness, reassurance, and feeling anchored to someone's care. After a painful heartbreak, she longed for peace. That's when she met Eli, a quiet, thoughtful graphic designer with soft eyes and a voice that felt like a calm morning. She thought finally, "This is it. This is peace." Eli, on the other hand, treasured his solitude. He wanted connection, but too much of it felt suffocating, like being held underwater for too long. He craved love, but he needed it at arm's length. So when Maya would text him 3 times in a row, his heart would race. He'd stare at the screen, feeling trapped, unsure how to reply without giving up a piece of himself. And yet, when they first met, something just clicked. She made him laugh in a way no one else could, and he made her feel safe, at least for a little while. In the beginning, it was a fairy tale. Their differences were a perfect dance. Maya adored Eli's calming presence. It was the anchor for her racing mind. Eli was drawn to her vibrant energy. She pulled him out of his quiet, grayscale world into a life full of color. They were the missing pieces to each other's puzzles. But slowly, the very things that drew them together started to push them apart. Their different languages of love began to get lost in translation. When Maya would say, "I miss you," all she wanted was to feel close. But Eli heard, "You're not doing enough. You're failing me." And when Eli would say, "I just need a little space to breathe," all he wanted was to recharge. But Maya heard the deafening echo of, "I don't love you anymore." Every small misunderstanding spiraled into a storm. The more anxious Maya felt, the more she'd reach out, seeking reassurance, a sign that they were still okay. But the more she reached, the more Eli felt cornered, and the more he'd pull away, just to find air. It became a painful cycle, her desperate pursuit and his quiet retreat. The more she chased, the farther he drifted, until they were 2 people in the same room, living in different worlds. Maya couldn't wrap her head around it. Why did the man who made her feel so safe now need so much distance from her? She wanted to share everything, her day, her dreams, her fears. He just wanted quiet. The silence started to feel louder than any argument. One night they had a date planned. Maya had been looking forward to it all week, but then a text from Eli. "Hey, I'm sorry, I just really need to be alone tonight." The words hit her like a physical blow. She spent the night crying into her pillow, a single thought torturing her. Am I too much? Is my love too heavy? In a desperate attempt to fix things, she decided to play a game she didn't want to play. She'd match his energy. She stopped texting first. She silenced the part of her that wanted to reach out. Days crawled by. A profound silence grew between them. Eli noticed it, of course. A part of him felt a wave of relief at the sudden quiet, but another, deeper part of him missed her terribly. The silence he'd craved now felt empty. He just didn't know how to break it without falling back into that suffocating dance. Finally, Maya couldn't take it anymore. She called him, her voice trembling with a week's worth of unshed tears and unspoken fears. "Do you even want this anymore, Eli?" she whispered. There was a pause on his end. It stretched on for what felt like an eternity, long enough for her heart to break a little more. Then he finally answered, his voice soft and defeated. "I do. I just don't know how to do it your way." In that moment, a devastating realization washed over Maya. She understood that you could love someone with all your heart, and they could love you back, but that love might not feel safe. And you could feel safe with someone, but that safety might not bring you the closeness you need to feel alive. Their love was real, but it was starving them both. Weeks later, in a final attempt to salvage their connection, Maya planned a weekend trip to Cape Coast. Let's just reconnect, she'd said, her voice full of hope. The first day was pure magic. It felt like the early days all over again. They laughed, held hands, and watched the powerful waves crash against the shore, feeling like they could conquer anything together. But that night, as they sat by the ocean under a sky full of stars, the illusion shattered. Maya turned to him, her expression vulnerable. "Sometimes," she said softly, "I feel like you're only half here. Like the other half of you is somewhere else, far away. I just need to know that you want me. All of me." Eli couldn't meet her eyes. He stared down at his hands, as if the answer was written in his palms. "I do want you, Maya," he said, his voice barely audible over the sound of the sea. "But when you need me so much, it feels like I disappear, like there's no room left for me." Tears welled up in her eyes, spilling onto her cheeks. "And when you disappear," she whispered back, "I feel like I'm dying." They sat there in silence, the vast, rhythmic sound of the ocean filling the space between them. It was a heartbreaking stalemate. Neither of them was right, and neither was wrong. They were just two good people, trapped in their own emotional wiring, their love caught in the crossfire. 2 weeks after that trip, the end came. It was Maya who said the words, but they both knew it was over. She told him she couldn't spend the rest of her life begging for a closeness that made him uncomfortable, that she couldn't keep shrinking herself to fit into the small space he could offer. Eli didn't argue. He just nodded quietly, his eyes wet, but his face calm. It was as if he'd been expecting this moment all along. They held each other in a final hug. It was long, soft, and heartbreakingly final. There was still love there, but it was a love that had run out of road. After she left his apartment for the last time, Eli stood at the window, watching her walk away until she was just a speck in the distance. He stood there for a long, long time, and in that moment, he realized that the space he had always craved, the solitude he thought he needed, suddenly felt vast and terrifyingly empty. Meanwhile, Maya cried for days. She cried for the love she'd lost, for the future she'd imagined. But as the tears subsided, something new began to grow in their place. Slowly, she started learning how to give herself the reassurance she had once begged for from him. She began to understand that her need for connection wasn't a flaw. It was a part of her. But she deserved a love that met her there, not one she had to chase. Months passed, and they healed separately. Maya discovered a strength in her own company. She learned to distinguish silence from rejection, to find her own anchor in the storms of life. She found peace not in another person, but within herself. Eli, in his newfound space, began to understand that true independence wasn't about isolation. He realized that needing someone, allowing yourself to be vulnerable, wasn't a weakness. It was a unique kind of courage. He learned that love required showing up, even when it felt scary. About a year later, they saw each other by chance at a small cafe. Their eyes met across the room. There was no tension, no awkwardness. They just smiled, a gentle, knowing smile. There was no bitterness, only a quiet gratitude for the journey they had shared. Their story is a powerful reminder that some loves aren't meant to last forever. They come into our lives to teach us, to break us open, and to show us what we truly need. They don't last, but they teach us how to love better the next time, and most importantly, how to love ourselves. Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more stories about love, loss, and the journey of becoming whole. See you in the next one.